Hi everyone. So this is lecture 1 of class 9 chapter seed structure and germination, and in today's lecture we are going to cover topics like seed, fruit and grain, and we will also study about classification and structure of seeds. So classification and structure of a seed. So let's start. Before understanding seed and fruit, let's revise the female reproductive parts of a flower. So we are drawing female reproductive part of a flower. Okay, so this is how a female reproductive part looks. Okay, this portion is called stigma. This is called style, and this whole bulky portion is called ovary. And inside ovary, it contains ovule. Okay, this stigma act as a site for the landing of the pollen grains, and through the style the pollen grain elongates and it reaches the ovule. Now here what we have to note that this ovule after fertilization forms seed. So ovule after fertilization it forms seed. Okay, and the ovary after fertilization forms fruit. So it after fertilization forms fruit. Okay, and the ovule inside it contains embryo. Okay, which is formed when the pollen grain fuses the egg. Okay, so the embryo is formed inside the ovule, and this embryo will form a new plant later on. Okay, now I have revised the female reproductive parts of a flower. Okay, so now let's understand what are seed and fruit. Fruit. So what is a fruit? Fruit is a ripened ovary. Okay, fruit is a ripened ovary. Means after fertilization the ovary develops into fruit. Okay, so fruit is a ripened ovary. The ovarian wall forms the fruit wall. What does it mean? See, this was the female reproductive part of a flower and this was the ovary. Okay, so its outer wall, this ovarian wall, it will develop into fruit wall after fertilization, because this ovary will convert into fruit and its outer ovarian wall will convert into fruit wall. Okay, now next point, the function of fruit is to protect seed and to help in seed dispersal. Okay, this fruit inside it contains the seed. So first let's write this point here. The fruit encloses seed, and because of that it protects the seed and it helps in seed dispersal, means movement of the seed from one place to another. It is very easy to carry the seed. Okay, now let's see the example of fruit. So in your book two examples are given. So first To learn that, let's learn it through a very simple mnemonic. So the mnemonic is MP. You can remember this as Madhya Pradesh. So M is for mango and P is for pea pod. Okay, from the mnemonic Madhya Pradesh, just remember the examples mango and pea pod. So you like the fruits of Madhya Pradesh. So which fruits? Mango and pea pod. So this was all about fruit. Now let's study about seed. So what is a seed? Seed is a ripened ovule. So it is ripened ovule. Means the ovule after fertilization forms seed. The seed contains embryo. Okay. See. This is the ovary part and inside it is the ovule. And inside ovule it contains the embryo. Okay. Now next point. The seed covering is called seed coat. Okay, so this ovule will form seed. So the covering of the seed is called seed coat. Okay, now the function of the seed is to protect embryo. So function is to protect embryo. Okay, the embryo is present inside, so it protects the embryo. Now let's learn the examples of seed. So there is a simple mnemonic which is BP. Okay, BP, blood pressure. You can eat healthy seeds and control your blood pressure. So with this mnemonic, B stands for bean seed. Okay, and P stand for pea. Okay, these are the two examples which are given in your book. Okay, now let's study about grain. So grain is actually a fruit. So it is actually a fruit. See what happens? Fruit wall and the seed coat they fuse and they form grain. Okay, see, this is the fruit. Inside the fruit is the seed. So this fruit wall and the covering of the seed coat, they fuse. Okay, they fuse and form grain. Okay, now what is the function of grain? The function of this grain is to act like a protective covering. So it acts like a protective covering. Now let's learn the examples that are given in your book. So for grain, two examples are given, M and W. The mnemonic is maximum wicket. You can take with the help of a grain. So maximum wicket is the mnemonic. So M stands for maize and W stands for wheat. So these two are the examples of grain given in your book. Let's study more about seed. So the seed contains embryo inside. This I am drawing the embryo. Okay, this embryo is formed with the fusion of embryo formed with the fusion of male anther sperm and female egg or ova. Okay, male sperm nucleus and the female egg ova nucleus. Okay, in both cases their nucleus fuse and they form the embryo. Okay, first zygote is formed which divides and form new cells and which further develops into the embryo. Now this embryo, it remains in a dormant state, means it remains in an inactive stage. Only it germinates when all the conditions are favorable, means there is proper lighting, there is proper moisture. Okay, there is no condition of drought. Okay, so this embryo germinates only when the conditions are favorable. So the embryo remains in dormant state until conditions are favorable. I am writing here, until conditions, just a minute, until conditions are favorable, means proper light, temperature, oxygen. Now this embryo also needs food, so the seed has endosperm present which provides the food to the growing embryo. So we have this whole endosperm present. It stores food for the nourishment of the growing embryo. Okay, now this embryo has two special characters which are known as cotyledons. In this, two cotyledons I have shown. These are cotyledons. They also provide food to the embryo and they also form the future leaves. So these cotyledons are the future leaves. When the embryo will come out of the seed and try to grow, these cotyledons will form leaves. Now, this upper portion of this embryo is called plumule, which forms the future shoot. Okay, it will elongate and forms shoot, and the lower portion of the embryo is called radicle. Okay, and this radicle forms the root, so it is the future root. Okay, just note this point very carefully and just try to understand and learn these things. Okay, now let's study classification and structure of seeds. So we are going to study classification and structure of seeds. So based on the number of cotyledons present, seeds are of two kinds: monocotyledonous seeds and dicotyledonous seeds. So seeds are of two types based on the number of cotyledons present. Monocotyledonous seeds or dicotyledonous. Okay. The monocotyledonous seeds are also known as monocots. and the dicotyledonous seeds are also known as dicots. Now, let's draw, okay, to understand it in a better way. Okay, this is the embryo. This is what? This is embryo. Okay, and around embryo just one cotyledon present. Okay, and in this case, this is seed. Inside seed we have embryo. Okay, this is the embryo. Now here, this is one cotyledon, and here it is another cotyledon. It is also cotyledon. So we note this. Here only one cotyledon present. Here two cotyledons present. Where two cotyledons are present, that are known as dicots, and where only one cotyledon is present, that is known as monocots. Now let's learn the examples which are given in your book. So in monocots, two examples are given. You can remember it by mg. Mg means milligram. Milligram is a small quantity. So you may remember monocots, only one cotyledon, so they are lighter. So the example is milligram. M for maize and G for grasses. Okay. Now example of dicot which is given in your book is BGP. BGP. You can remember it by Bharatiya Janata Party. Okay. With G. Okay, not J. It's G. So B for bean, G for gram, and P for pea. So these are the examples of dicots, and Mg, maize and grasses are the examples of monocots. Now let's see the other category. Based on size, seeds are classified into three categories. Okay, they can be small, quite large, or largest. So examples of small seeds are poppy and orchid seeds. So poppy and orchid seeds. Okay. The seeds that are quite large are watermelon seed, pumpkin, and mango. Okay. Now examples of largest seeds are coconut and double coconut. Just go and check the structure of double coconut. Okay, on the Google. So coconut and double coconut. Now let's see the other classification category. On the basis of endosperm, whether it is present or consumed. Okay. So on the basis of endosperm. What was endosperm? Suppose this was the seed. Inside we had our embryo, and this was the endosperm which was storing food and giving nutrition to the developing embryo. So this was endosperm. Now seeds in which this endosperm remains, okay, it persists, that seeds are known as albuminous seeds. They are known as albuminous. And seeds in which this endosperm is consumed, okay, and now it is absent, is called as ex-albuminous seeds. Okay, because the endosperm is present, These are also known as endospermic seeds. These are also known as endospermic seeds, and here the endosperm is consumed, so these are known as non-endospermic seeds. Okay, I am drawing the diagram to explain it more clearly. Okay, this is the seed, this is our embryo. Okay, our cotyledon is there. Okay, here this endosperm is present, it persists here. Now in this case, this is our embryo again. This is the cotyledons, and here the endosperm has been consumed completely by the embryo, so endosperm is absent. So let's write it here, endosperm persist, and in this case endosperm consumed completely. So endosperm consumed completely. Now here the endosperms are already present to provide nutrition. So here the cotyledons are thin and membranous. So cotyledons thin and membranous. Thin membranous cotyledons are present. So here endosperm is consumed. So only cotyledons are present to provide the nutrition to the growing embryo. So here the cotyledons are thick and fleshy. So here cotyledons thick and fleshy. Okay. Now let's see the examples of albuminous seeds and ex-albuminous seeds. So examples of albuminous seeds. In this we are going to study for both dicots as well as monocots. Okay. Albuminous dicot seeds, albuminous monocot seeds. Example. So mnemonic is PAC, PMC. Mnemonic is PAC, PMC. Okay. P for poppy, A for apple, okay, and C for custard. These are example of albuminous dicot seeds. Now monocot, PMC. So P for palm, M for millets, and C for cereals. Okay, now let's see case of ex-albuminous dicots and ex-albuminous monocot seeds. So let's learn it through mnemonic. Good morning person Goa. G for gram, M for mango and mustard, P for pea. Now for monocots, V for Vallisneria. O for orchid and A for Amorphophallus. Okay. Remember all these examples. Write down the mnemonics multiple times. PAC, PMC. Okay. Good morning person Goa. Okay. Remember this dicot I have written first, then monocot. Okay. Learn this in the same manner. That's all for today's lecture. Okay. And in today's lecture I am giving you one very important homework. write down all the examples 5 times along with the mnemonics. Okay, just do it, write it down. Only this way you will be able to recall all the examples. Okay, do it 5 times, then after 2 or 3 days again write it down 5 times. Okay, this is the simplest way to learn any example. So take care. Thank you so much. See you in the next lecture.